Hello and welcome to today's 10-minute episode of The Listening Lounge. My name is Nick Day, CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, specialist payroll and HR recruiters.
Now today I am super excited because I am welcoming Marcelo Lebre, the COO and co-founder of Remote.com. Now we know that managing global payroll isn't easy, even for the most experienced of businesses. So I'd love to know a little bit about perhaps some of the pressing issues that you've uncovered, discovered, that multinational organizations are facing at the moment when it comes to global payroll operations.
Yeah, so the one thing that pressed me, my sort of career expands into from CTO, just someone an engineer working and dabbing in technology, more into the operational world, was the fact that as we started growing remote, like from day one, I think even before we started, we had so many customers and demand more than we could meet in terms of offer and service. Even like as we, and this feeling hasn't gone anywhere since we
Sure.
like we're now 1,000 people all across the world, no single office, and in about 70 countries, give or take. We add a new country every few weeks. And of course, the reason why we created Remote was because we wanted to solve something that was fundamentally a massive problem for a lot of companies and a lot of people. Like opportunities were everywhere, or not everywhere. Talent was.
Yeah.
And so essentially you wanted to mix it and create an homogeneous band of opportunity around the world. And that can only be done if you balance out the scales, right? If you make sure that everyone has access to everything and that it's not just the central hubs in the main countries, the main cities. My biggest pain point was realizing that to do this, we had to do everything from the ground up, not using third parties using other companies as support, mainly EOR companies, employer of record, because we knew that by doing that, we would not be different. We would just be scaling on the back of other old incumbent companies. And then you can build a very good, big business, very successful. We have all of our competitors do that. It's very good. They are very successful businesses. I'm very happy for them and for the people that they help employ around the world, because that's the main mission. But the truth here is that you're not doing anything different. Right? You're not. Payroll in itself is probably the same process as for the last 100 years, 200 years, 300 years,
Sure.
where you get your money and a note in the end of the back of the envelope. Here's what you did. Here's your money. Now it became fancier as time progressed. Now you have an email with a payslip, and all your deductions are done automatically through banks and stuff. But it's fundamentally the same thing, right? It is the same, almost outdated process. And as you put together all these different countries and within one single roof and make it scale and offer this to all people around the world, companies, people, employees, employers, and then you realize that people don't get it. People never get it. And a lot of people we employ in all the countries we employ in, all these 70 countries, when they look at their payslip, they're often not from the country they're working at. Sure. And so the first thing that goes through their minds is, what the hell is this? Often is can not be in the same language. Countries like Portugal, we do 14 months a year. So the first thing is, what? Wait, is this like a different calendar or something? And so you realize that this needs a fundamental rebrand and refurbish, right? The processes, the functions are fine, like the way you do it and the way that most countries operate. Some are very efficient, others quite the opposite. Many countries are super manual, super outdated, very troublesome. very bureaucratic. Now, imagine you're a company and you want to employ around the world rather than just hire in San Francisco, New York, London, Paris. You want to hire across the world. Hire the best person for that job for whatever money you can pay. And this person happens to be in a country you don't really know anything about. And so you come to remote and you can easily employ that person. Now, if we were to pass along all our struggles or the details of creating a payslip for that person, right? So their person on Social Security, I think companies would go crazy immediately.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason why only a handful of companies are really global. It's because it's a feat on its own. Like it's a problem. It requires massive departments on its own. Like the biggest multinational global companies, they have massive departments just to handle this. And so what I realized is that I was getting very frustrated, as not just as co-founder and CTO, but as a Portuguese person that has to deal and understand what other payslips look like and how it functions. And so I decided to know, I'm a very anxious person, and so either anxiety is a super problem or a superpower. So I decided to make it a superpower, and I pushed it into, no, I'm gonna solve this, and my main challenge has been fundamentally, how can I help bring about some, change and update to the payroll world.
Do you think that the pandemic and technology and all these things have kind of collaborated together now to, for the first time, outside looking in from investors, from entrepreneurs, from C-suite level individuals, are they now looking at the function of payroll differently? Have they now starting to appreciate that actually payroll has a real strategic, it's a real strategic asset, has a much more important part to play than just paying employees as it used to be seen, and therefore companies are looking to invest. People like yourself, and let's be honest, with your expertise, you could have probably picked a different business, a different sector to work in and to focus on, but you've chosen payroll here, and not many have done that. But actually the market opportunities, as you're experiencing, are huge. So I'd love to know from your point of view how you've seen that market shift in both in terms of thoughts and process, and in terms of going from a manual to strategic, really.
When there's a will, there's a way. And I believe that the will came from need, right? A bit upstream to that idiomatic expression. Because up until now, you always had options, right? You were like, oh, I'm either going to employ locally. Yeah. And maybe I can pay the best rates or hire the best people, or even, just have a smaller team just because it's expensive, or I'm going to hire maybe one contractor here and there to cope with all the things that I need to do. But as the pandemic and this trend that has been, piling up for almost 20 years now on remote work and distributed work kept pushing, now all of a sudden employers have no alternative than to just accept that there's a new reality, that if they don't do it, they're leaving money on the table. They're not hiring the best people. They're not targeting the best business. And that is a need, because now companies were facing and situating themselves between a rock and a hard place, which is, I need to go remote. I need to go global, but I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
And so who can help? And payroll can help. Like global payroll can help. Like it's the theme behind just the payroll aspect of things. Like, because with local payroll used to be perceived as, well, it's just the folks that do the math at the end of the month, or that calculate whatever government says that it needs to be calculated and make those deductions. And then the focus is on that. Like, okay, so but now this is a massive important thing that I have here. Why is it the way that it is, and how can I do it better, more, or more distributed? And then people realize, oh, we hyper normalized payroll, because it's been centuries since it's literally very similar processes, and now we realize we're decades behind And that was it's still the major lever here.
Yeah, it must be hugely exciting. I mean, I'm always trying to champion the profession. It can be such an exciting profession because, especially now technology is involved, it does take a little bit of HR's involved, a little bit of finance. You've got, as you said, the mathematical side. There's now the client-facing side of it, and tech's now really immersing itself in the industry. The one thing that, for the listeners listening out there, listening to this now, that really appealed to me to approach Marcelo to ask him to be part of the show today is I read a headline that said that Remote successfully managed to, through their Series C funding round, over $300 million. And for me, it was a real signal of intent that proved the importance of payroll is really starting to be recognized. I don't think we'd have seen a headline like that 10 years ago. I just don't think it was in people's consciousness to think of investing in payroll and payroll technology in the same way. It just leaves me to say a huge thank you again to Marcelo for joining me today. Thank you to all of you for listening to the show. I look forward to bringing you the next episode real soon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marcelo.
Thank you. Awesome.